Hello, everybody. Sorry we're late. My fault. Had a problem with the uploads this morning. I don't know why. They never
We're
tell
good.
you. It
We're
just
here though.
happens.
We're here. It always happens. If you go a week without something going wrong, Barry, then you're not doing it right.
Boy, is that the truth. And I just love these messages we get, Will, like, your content is being blocked for offensive and violent content or whatever. It's really, really discouraging when you
Yeah,
see so much of that, and
it's ridiculous.
there's no explanation. You've been through it. I've been through it just too many times. Let's dive in
I'm
and
still
get
going
going.
through it. Still
Yes, we
going,
are.
still going through it.
So election season is here. We're inundated 24/7. There's a really interesting city council candidate in the largest county in America, which is Los Angeles. And this gal is running for city council to meet this guy who said offensive things. And yet I can't believe this. There's a meet and greet on video with Isabel Jurado. She is a leading organizer in the Hispanic community, and she is looking to take the place of another Hispanic gentleman named Kevin De Leon. She was at Cal State LA last week and was asked about her stance on spending discretionary funds for police overtime because everybody's complaining that there's not enough cops and there's way too much crime. And they're right. And they're right. So they asked her, how do you feel about using discretionary funding at the council level to pay for more cops on the street? And her response was, what's the rap verse? F the police, except she said the word F the police. That's how I see them. And the crowd just was stunned, absolutely stunned. She didn't say she misspoke. She didn't say it was a slip of the tongue. What she said was, it's a lyric from a song. It's part of a larger conversation on systemic injustice and police accountability. Um, I'm proud to be accessible to young people and students, and I listen to their concerns. She didn't say anything about the fact that she said F the police. It was almost like you and I have talked about many times, one of those Kamala answers where you listen and you listen and you listen and you go, well, that was like 3 minutes. I don't know what she said. Well, this gal has the same technique, except they have her on videotape saying F the police, right?
Where's the
So
video?
I just showed the picture. I didn't want to I would have had to bleep out half of what she said. So the police union came out and said, um, the phrase is disappointing and diminishes the hard work and dedication of the men and women of the LAPD. This divisive language only serves to erode what should be a positive and collaborative relationship between the police and the people we serve. Every day, the men and women of LAPD put their lives on the line to keep the people of Los Angeles safe, and I wish more people valued their sacrifice. That was from the chief. And then came the union, which just blew her up and came out against her. She hasn't walked back the comments. Is
Probably
there
not
a
going
chance?
to.
Could she get elected with a stance like F the police?
What city was this in again?
Los Angeles, baby.
Yeah, she can. Yeah, yeah, most definitely.
So how does somebody like that, I mean, I know it's hypothetical, answer for the fact that crime is out of control, drug dealers are everywhere, prostitution's everywhere, the place is a mess, you can't walk on the streets, you can't walk on the sidewalks, right? And bottom line is, F the police is her campaign slogan in regards to the police.
Um, this is California we're talking about. The same California where Nancy Pelosi resides at. same place that Kamala Harris came from, the same place that has a crime, number one crime for looting and everything else in the country. So of course she can run on this all day long. She can say it all day long. And if she does come out with a statement saying, "Look, I was just going along with the song that I heard. I didn't actually mean it. You people should know a joke when you hear one."
She,
But
wait a minute, stop. She could have said all of that, and then people would have gone, "Well, it's not funny, but okay."
but see, they just stick with it. Barry, I think we're at a time in our society to where they're actually blatantly saying this about the police officers, F the police. And, I remember going over a story that they were actually bringing undocumented people into the country and actually putting them on the police force in LA, of all places.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Non-citizen illegal aliens?
Yes,
Oh,
putting them on the
goodness.
police force and arming them. So if they come in, they can tell them they're not going to adhere to the Constitution. They're not going to take an oath. I mean, what's the oath that they took? They're not even American citizens. So how do they get on the police force in the first place? Well, anyways, nonetheless, they're going to be there, and of course, they're going to use these people to come after Americans. And with her saying "F the police" is right up their alley. They want to remove as many police officers as possible so they can have crime-ridden cities. Have you ever seen Batman and Robin? Now you've seen some of the newer movies with Batman and stuff like that, and the crime just all throughout the city, and a lot of the cops are just paid off, and they allow the crime to take place. That might not be far off from the actual reality. Except for we just don't have Batman running around. If there is a Batman, a good Samaritan out there actually helping people, they put him in jail and not the criminals.
Well, just so people don't forget, don't vote for her and her inability to answer a question. She could have taken Will Johnson's great political strategy advice, which is, "Oh, that was a joke. I was quoting a rap song. Of course we need
Yeah.
more cops." Instead of her stupid answer, which is, "I'm here for the students. I listen to everybody. What about the F the police? And my door is always open." Word salad. It works for a very famous person running for president. She's
Yeah,
getting away with it.
I think that's a role model for her.
Oh my goodness. Well, on a serious note, in regards to your favorite presidential candidate, no kidding, it's coming out more and more in the news, Will Johnson, that there are Iranian agents working with leading Muslim clerics all over the country. And if that wasn't bad enough, it gets much worse. George Washington University, which is a very progressive campus, I mean, very left wing, has just released a study showing how much FaceTime these infiltrators are getting with leading politicians. And they uncovered evidence that Kamala Harris is hanging out with Muslim clerics that support Ayatollah Khomeini, who kidnapped all the Americans when they took over Iran in 1979, was behind the Hezbollah bombing of the Marine barracks that killed hundreds of Americans, openly supports the terror group Hezbollah. And he said, this imam said he would die for the cause of Hezbollah if he could. Kamala Harris hangs out with him. If you don't believe it, I've got a video that proves it. You saw it, and if you don't believe it, I pulled a still picture out that they posted together. That's Kamala on the left. That's Mrs. Radical Muslim Cleric in the middle. And the guy on the right is the guy I'm talking about. And he is an incredible radical working for Iran. His name is Imam Mohammed Ali Elahi. And he has been praising what Iran has been doing nonstop. This is Kamala campaigning for his support. And the people that this guy is aligned with are unbelievable, wanting and openly calling for the destruction of Israel, the killing of Jews, and the destruction of America. And your favorite presidential candidate has not walked any of this back. The pictures are circulating everywhere. She's leaving them up in the hopes of getting the Muslim vote in Michigan. This is unbelievable.
It really is, especially after hearing about the Muslim that was kicked out of her event in Michigan. You've heard about that, didn't you?
Tell our viewers.
So there's a guy, he's a Democrat, he's a Muslim in Michigan. He actually received an invitation to attend one of Kamala Harris's events in Michigan. So he shows up, he's sitting there. He doesn't have a sign on, no t-shirt, he has a suit on, jacket, shirt. He's just sitting there waiting for the event to start. And then one of the campaign people from Kamala Harris came and told him, said, "Could you come with me?" He said, okay. He got up. He didn't think, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He got up and they said that you have to leave. And he go, "For what?" And they said, "If you don't leave, we're going to have you arrested. The Secret Service wants you removed." And it's become a huge story. I saw a video that someone took from TikTok and put it on X, where he was out there explaining what happened to him. And then after that, it just went viral. And of course, Kamala Harris since then has come back, her team, and apologized for kicking him out of the event that they invited him to. And they're saying,
whoa, wow, go on.
And they're saying that it was just a complete mistake, that they did not mean to kick him out. And of course, he's always invited. But the question is why did they kick him out in the first place? And when this comes on the heel of Kamala Harris, which is completely false, that she's lying, saying that she's going to continue supporting Israel. And then we have this where she's in this picture with them. This woman doesn't know what she wants to do. She doesn't know where to go, which way the wind is blowing, even though it's blowing in her face. There's something truly wrong with her. It's like so mixed emotions. Are you supporting Muslims? Are you not supporting them? Are you supporting Israel? You're not supporting. She'll just go, which way do I go? Which way do I go? I'm telling you, this is Kamala Harris in a nutshell.
Well, listen to this. This guy has I'm reading all the people he's associated with. This is all in the George Washington University report. His chief benefactor is the Alavi Foundation, where the Department of Justice has been after this group since 2008. They've given Elahi $486,000. They've donated millions to universities like Harvard, Columbia, and Hunter College, all of which allow massive anti-Israel, anti-Jewish violence and protests on campus. And this guy wrote a letter to Wayne State University demanding they meet with his associate radical campus activist for Students in Justice in Palestine, which wants to burn America to the ground and regularly burns American flags at events. This is mind-boggling. So Kamala is courting them, right? Even though the Secret Service says the guy's dangerous, we got to keep him away from you. And she goes, "Oh, sorry, let him in. He might bring me some votes." Is that what's going on?
I think ultimately, like I've said multiple times, she hates Israel, and behind closed doors, as much as possible, she will support organizations that want to destroy Israel. And of course, she does want their support. Now, put it this way. I think she just follows the money. I think whoever is going to contribute the most money to her is which way she'll go. And this is the reason why she tries to come out and act like she's for the Jewish community, because it's been known that the Jewish community will pour a lot of money into the Democrat Party. It's no secret.
Sadly,
And that's the
you're
only
correct.
and that's the only reason why she's acting. She's going through the motions. That's all she's doing. She's going through the motions, saying we will always stand with Israel. Not really, but she, on the camera, she'll do that. And then she have these meetings and say, I had never seen that video footage. And because of you,
Well,
that's
I
the
got
only
news for
reason
you.
why
This is
we're
not
seeing it.
this report just came out, and it is not getting covered. It is not getting covered.
They're gonna suppress it as much as possible. We might as well call it a Hunter Biden laptop video.
Never to be seen again as long as there's a campaign going on.
Yeah. Well, with her, of
Right.
course.
Wow. Well, the news gets worse when it comes to Israel. This is a startling story, and I have trouble even believing how bad it is. CBS News, which is totally in the bag for the president and the vice president, and I mean the President Biden, the vice president Kamala Harris, to the point of, in the last debate, as you remember, fact checking just one side, not the other, right? And made it very obvious that they were going to level the playing field. And then it came out that direction came right from the head of CBS News. Listen to this. CBS News has ordered its staff in writing to not say Israel's capital city is Jerusalem and that it's in Israel. They're not allowed to refer to Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That's an order from the head of CBS News. Mark Mimot, the senior director of standards and practices, emailed all employees telling them, quote, to be careful with some terms where we talk or write about the news in regards to Israel and Hamas, and included on his list of terms that were controversial was Jerusalem. Quote, do not refer to Jerusalem as being in Israel, unquote. Is that unbelievable?
It really is. I mean, it really is. What is the I was going to say, what is the problem with Jerusalem being the capital of Israel? But I already know the answer to that.
For 3,000 years. I mean,
yeah.
If you want to study history, that's the Western Wall. That's a typical day. Thousands of Jews praying there. On the top of that wall is the Temple Mount, where the temple stood. 2,000 years ago, that's where Jesus was. 3,000 years ago, that's where King Solomon proclaimed Israel as the capital, and David built David proclaimed as a capital, and Solomon built the temple. This Mr. Mimot just threw out 3,000 years of history.
Well, so it's like an internal memo that someone did a whistleblow on, right? And they leaked it, said, what, this is not right. This is not right. Probably because I've learned this myself, just because someone doesn't look Jewish doesn't mean they're not Jewish, because Jewish people look, like a melting pot of a lot of people. I've learned that. And so if they send out that memo, someone in there that probably could be possibly married to a Jewish person, or, have Jewish family members. They don't know every aspect of everyone that works at the company. So they put this out there saying this. But regardless of them saying that, putting that memo out there, President Trump has already told the world when he moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, which is there today. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they could have pulled it out, but they did not. Why didn't they do that? That's a really good question, right? Which is telling the entire world that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And
100%.
even when you look on these maps where they're trying to say, Palestine, and it's still the capital. It's still the capital of Israel. You can't, you know what, Barry? They just have such a hatred for reality, such a hatred for truth, and such a hatred for Israel. they're willing to disregard everything that they know and just go along with this ignorance, this level of stupidity, this level of hatred for Israel. And it's not even called for. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, really, just leave it alone. But they
Well,
can't help themselves.
unfortunately, yeah, they can't help themselves. And when you've got news coming from the mainstream media that is literally going into the twilight zone for their reality check, I hope people just run away from CBS because it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. He mentioned that Israel occupied Jerusalem in 1967. No, they liberated Jerusalem in 1967. It was
I
illegally
know.
seized by Jordan in
Yeah.
1948, and it took the Jews 19 years to drive them out. It's
Yeah.
not Arab territory. It's never been Arab territory. It's never been the capital of anything. It's except of the Jewish people
Israel.
for 3,000 years.
Yeah, Israel. I mean, we have historical documents that prove that.
Yeah,
I
one of
mean,
them, what is that book called that writes all about it hundreds of
yeah,
times?
the Holy Bible. I mean, it's
That's the one.
historical document.
Exactly. Exactly. So check this out in Virginia, which is now a toss-up state, supposedly, even though it's been heavily Democrat for a long time. Trump seems to be pushing back hard, and the Senate race seems to be getting closer. Um, a Virginia school board has agreed to pay $575,000 in damages and legal fees to settle a lawsuit. They fired a teacher who was, listen to this, he was dismissed for refusing to use this person's preferred pronouns because he said it was against his religion. In other words, the person's one sex comes to school and says, I joined the other team, and you must refer to me as blah, blah, blah. So, what this teacher did was, I will refer to you by your name. I'm not going to use pronouns that don't match your biological sex. Seems kind of obvious, right? Here's the
Yep.
gentleman. His name is Peter Vlaming. And he said, my religion says there are two sexes, and this is inconsistent with my biblical teachings. So he said, quote, this is his lawyer said, he was fired for something he couldn't say. He couldn't in good conscience speak messages that he knew were untrue. And no school board or government official can punish someone for that reason. So this guy didn't call the person something offensive. He said, look, I love teaching French. I gracefully tried to accommodate every student in my class, but I couldn't say something directly violating my conscience. So he called the student by the student's name, which is not public, which is fine. But because he wouldn't use the pronouns that changed one day suddenly in class, they threw him out of school
Wow.
and he sued and he won. Good for him.
Good. Yes.
Good for
Good.
him. This is the same place, if you remember, Glenn Youngkin won the governorship a few years ago by reforming the schools, by saying enough of this crazy stuff.
Yep.
And there'd been Democrat governor, Democrat governor, Democrat governor, and he came in and goes, this is not common sense. We have got to teach the students in an honest, ethical environment. And that's how he won in a Democrat state. So things are changing, Will Johnson, swinging back to
Yes.
reality and a little bit of sanity, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. And it's good that he actually won his case in this.
No
I'm
kidding.
pretty sure they were fighting it.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what?
Oh, yeah. It
I,
was quite a
I
battle.
yeah. I still don't understand why when you have these adults that are indoctrinating these children and convincing these children to call themselves other than something that they are, and then they want to fire people because they don't want to play along with their insanity. We've talked about this multiple times. They emptied the asylum, and these people are now in our society and they're pushing their insanity onto kids.
Yeah,
We're
that's a
seeing it.
good, wait a minute. that's a good summary. Go on. I agree.
And they're telling everyone that you have to be this way, and anyone that goes against it, we will fire you, we will penalize you, we will hurt you, we will censor you, we will ban you, we will block you, we will do everything to you to make your life miserable as much as possible because you are going against our disturbed minds.
Boy, is that the truth. That is so the truth. Well, it gets worse with CBS. It seems to be pound on CBS day, but the news just keeps coming out and it ain't getting better. So check this out. A Gaza-based producer for CBS News, who was praised by management at CBS News for his resolve, has a history of bashing the heck, literally, of Israel on social media. And the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis, CAMERA it's called, has released information on Marwan al-Ghul. Let me show you what he looks like. This is him reporting from Gaza. He likes comments and puts it on his social media that calls Jews Nazis and murderers. He's put lengthy posts that gush about the demise of the United States and Europe. He likes Facebook comments that claim Israeli Jews are Nazi Zionist murderers whose crimes are silenced and covered up by the United States. And get this, what finally brought him to everyone's attention is putting a comment on his social media that read, "By no means do Israelis count as human beings. They are monsters in a human body." And it gets worse and worse and worse. He openly questioned 2 years ago, are Jews humans like us? This guy is absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. He still works for CBS News. He's their producer in Gaza. Boy, oh boy. Do you think his reporting's a little one-sided, Will?
Oh no, not at all. I'm pretty sure he's probably getting probably six figures, $250,000 a year to go out there and lie about Israel. Barry, let me ask you a simple question. I know you know the answer to this, and it's actually kind of a personal thing for you from knowing you. Who were the people that were doing terrible things to Jewish people in 1940s Germany?
Well, the Nazis.
So why would all of a sudden Jewish people want to become Nazis? I'm really trying to wrap my mind around it. I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. Yeah.
And if you call somebody what you are,
yes,
it deflects and changes the message dramatically, right?
Yes. Well, they want to deflect, right? Like not look at everything that we've been doing to cause Israel to do what they're doing, right? Let's not pay attention to that. For example, when you and we come on, we talk about what the different things that's happening in the news, and we talk about what they are doing. They don't want us talking about what they are doing. That's the reason why they label the videos a certain way, because we're talking about what they are doing. But then they turn around and try to blame us for doing something wrong. So they put disclaimers and everything else on the video because we're talking about what they are doing. Same thing here. They did it, and now he's on there saying, well, look what Israel's doing. Look what Israel's doing. But he never talks about what they are doing. They never address the situation, what causes Israel to have to defend themselves in the first place. Why don't we get to the root cause? If you actually want all of this to stop and you don't want to have to name call people, then stop doing the destruction. Why don't you go directly to the source that's causing it? For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. But they don't want to look at that. They just want to look at their feelings. Well, I feel that Israel should cease fire. I feel that Israel should go away. I feel that Israel should just allow us to eliminate them. I feel. And that's what they base everything off of, feelings and not the actual reality. I'm so sick of these people, Barry. I see them all over on X, blatantly lying every single day. And it's the same people saying that the earth is flat.
I get it. You're totally right. And that's why we keep shining a flashlight on it. You know, we just literally keep shining a flashlight on it. Check out this story. I was on the news live in Tel Aviv on ILTV a few years ago, talking about American Truth Project and what we do with and for getting the stories out about Israel. And they recently just interviewed one of my favorites in the House of Representatives, who's a Democrat named Richie Torres. And it's a wonderful interview that shows you there is some sanity, at least when it comes to Israel, in the House of Representatives. Let me show you what Richie Torres just said. This was recorded a couple of days ago, and it literally tells a wonderful story. I hope I have the video here. Give me a second. I'm looking for it.
Well, while you're looking for it, I'll just say, this is a Democrat, one of your favorite ones.
Correct.
I guess John Fetterman is becoming some people's favorite one too. But
But he's in the Senate. This is my favorite in the House. Here it is. I found it.
I'm just saying, yeah, they kind of like,
New York lawmakers has introduced a proposal to condition federal funding for universities on their efforts to monitor and combat anti-Semitism on campus. The bipartisan initiative aims to address rising anti-Semitic incidents across the country by ensuring that educational institutions take active steps to report and counter such hate speech and behavior. Emily Schrader has the story.
Congressman Torres, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start by asking you, given the anti-Semitic scenes that we saw on campus in the last school year, and that we've already started to see some of them in this school year that just started, what is Congress doing and what can Congress do to help combat this hate speech on campus?
One thing we have done is we passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act in the House, which would essentially codify the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, right? As you know, IHRA provides the most complete and comprehensive definition of anti-Semitism. It rightly recognizes that anti-Zionism is the latest mutation in the DNA of anti-Semitism. And so I think mandating the adoption of IHRA, we passed the legislation in the House, but it's waiting passage in the Senate.
Now, there's been a lot of foreign investment, we'll say, from other countries such as Qatar and a few others in American universities that some believe has contributed to the anti-Semitism we see on campus. Can anything be done about that at the congressional level, and is anything being done to prevent foreign interference in our universities?
Yeah, I worry that American higher education has become corrupted by foreign gifts. The largest contributor to institutions of higher learning here in the United States is Qatar. And Qatar is a known financier of Hamas. I'm of the view that universities that receive federal funding should be prohibited from receiving funding from adversaries of the United States like China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, or receiving funding from countries like Qatar that are known to finance terrorist organizations. We cannot allow foreign countries to weaponize American institutions against America and effectively wage malign foreign influence operations on college campuses. Enough is enough.
God bless him. I mean, you've got to make decisions on how people behave and what their actions are. His actions are fantastic. He is the exact other end of planet Earth from AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and the similar squad members, Bowman, who's out next week. Bye-bye. Cori Bush, who's out next week. but there's still a great number of them still there, and they are rabid anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, and frequently anti-American openly with their speeches and their policies. So for a guy like Richie to stand up doesn't make him very popular in the Democratic caucus.
I can only imagine. I can't personally. I don't see how you can call yourself a Democrat and support Israel at the same time. I mean, personally. So he is going against the grain. He's going against the grain, and the reason why I say that because the Democrats, they're not for Israel, as I'm always mentioning. But you know what? Good for him. Everything he said, I have no disagreement in everything he just said, Barry, because what he said was factual. And I'm going to limb here, and I'm willing to bet that he's probably going to get some kind of backlash for that. There's going to be
Well, he
some
gets
kind of
backlash for
repercussion.
this all the time, and he said, "I'm not
That's what-
backing
yeah.
down."
Yeah, so
They
that's what I'm saying.
come
So
after him all the time.
I can imagine so that they're going to go after him saying, you know what, you shouldn't have said this, you shouldn't have said that. It's kind of same thing with Fetterman, but they go after Fetterman for his stance when it comes to Israel, which kind of blew me away. When I see these Democrats actually openly talking about their support like this for Israel, I'm at an awe. I really am. Just to be honest with you, I'm at an awe. Just because of all the hateful rhetoric. I guess because the AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they have such a big mouth and they kind of shadow everything else. They put a shadow on everything else because their mouths are so big. They scream about Israel, saying Israel's, doing, just horrible things without any actual evidence of what they're saying. They're just saying it because they want Israel gone, the same way the other hateful anti-Israel members.
That's a nice way of saying it, and you're being discreet.
Yeah, I'm being nice about it. I really am.
Well,
being nice about it.
You are being very nice. I have more of this similar kind of news. There's a Democrat strategist that is high up in the DNC, and she is now saying that if Donald Trump wins in 12 days, he's going to exterminate people.
Oh my goodness.
Like Adolf Hitler exterminated people.
Oh my goodness.
And she talked about when Trump said there's a lot of bad genes in our country right now, talking about all the illegals that are committing crimes everywhere, right? Which is common knowledge. Even the FBI is acknowledging it now. She says, based on that Donald Trump revered the Nazis, revered Hitler, has a similar sinister philosophy, wants to be a dictator, and on and on and on. And he would absolutely exterminate an entire group of people because he thinks their genes are different. So when you hear all of this, and you didn't know anything about Trump, if you didn't, I think your reaction would be, oh my God, this Trump guy is absolutely horrible. Except then you remember, Will, he was already president for 4 years. I'm pretty sure there were no Hitler flags or pictures in the Oval Office, and nobody got rounded up and exterminated. That's sort of my memory. Here's the gal. Her name is Aisha Mills, and some of the stuff she has said is just outrageous. Then she said that Trump was more dangerous than even Hitler and Mussolini. I mean, this is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
And by the way,
know what?
And by the way, that's her. She still speaks for the Democrat Party, and nobody's walking back her comments, Will. Nobody's saying anything like, well, she's a little over the top, or she's an idiot, which would be more appropriate, or her comments are completely out of line and we disavow them completely, which is what they should say, right?
Absolutely. They should, but they're not going to because they've been putting this hateful rhetoric out there for not just months, but years about President Trump. Look, they've already had 2 attempts on President Trump, 2 attempts because of their hateful rhetoric. Her doing this is no different than these woke generals that wrote this book about President Trump, lying about him, and we all know it's a lie. And then Kamala Harris just recently, yesterday or day before yesterday, did an emergency press conference saying that President Trump he's something, he's not stable, something's wrong with him, and that he wants to be a dictator on day one. Karine Jean-Pierre, KGB, the very same day, she came out and said, just listen to his words. He says he wants to be a dictator on day one. And again, President Trump simply said, I don't know why it's so difficult for these people to understand this. And I think they actually do. They just refuse to acknowledge the reality of it. President Trump says, if shutting down the border, bringing safety and security to the American people, make me a dictator, then so be it. I will be one for a day. If making us energy independent,
he was going to have 2 dictates on the first day. Drill, baby, drill. Seal the border. Then I'm done being a dictator. By the way, those are called executive orders.
Yes.
Which the president does by the hundreds.
Yes. And everybody with 2 active brain cells knew exactly what he was saying. But just like everything else, they take it and they run with it. Say, oh my goodness, look what he said. Look what he said. They always leave out the key details, just like the whole issue with suckers and losers, when he would never go to a cemetery and even do that. That doesn't even sound right. That doesn't sound right for anybody to do. I don't care for Obama, and I don't care for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. I would go as far as say that they wouldn't say that either. Right? They wouldn't say that either. You're at a cemetery with generals, and you're going to call these people that bled and died for our freedoms, and you're going to call them suckers and losers? That don't even sound right. So for them to do this and trying to say that President Trump is like Hitler and he's going to use the military against everybody. Oh, Barry, did you hear about the DOD report?
No.
See, so you just mentioned it too. You just mentioned it. Basically, when they say that we're doing something, or when they say that when they point the finger and say so and so is doing something, they're actually doing it themselves. The DOD just put out a report saying that they passed it within the DOD. Congress has nothing to do with it. Apparently, they are able to, because of political reasons, to put U.S. military personnel on the streets of America now, and they can use deadly force. And they can do it because of political differences. What does that sound like to you? Kind of sounds a little bit like China. Does it sound a little bit like these other rogue nations? And isn't it interesting that Kamala Harris has already mentioned that she wants to do away with the First Amendment and come after your Second Amendment rights? And all of this is pointing for them to say that President Trump is trying to do all of this. It's a bunch of BS. President Trump is not the one doing it. They're the ones doing it. President Trump has said it multiple times. I would not do. They never even asked him, are you going to put military personnel troops on this? No, because he was said, get out of here with that story. I've never even mentioned doing that. They're lying about him, just like this woman here is lying about him. Sorry for my rant, but I had to go off. I mean, it's ridiculous they constantly do that.
I hear it all the time. I'm fine with it. As we get into the final days, Will, you've said this a million times, and I put this story in for you. You keep asking me the same question, which I'm really sick and tired of hearing because I don't have an answer that makes any sense. So you keep asking it, and I keep getting uncomfortable, which is, why are Jewish people who are active in politics campaigning for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who are no friend of Israel or the Jewish people?
Yep,
and then they say things. I get these letters from like the Jewish Democratic Caucus or whatever they call it, and saying how Trump has been horrible for Israel, which is not only a little bit wrong, it's borderline stupid.
It is.
Literally ignoring the data of a guy whose children are Jewish, whose grandchildren are Jewish, who did more for Israel than any other president in the history of the United States. Let me list 5 things he did for Israel. And maybe this will turn around a couple of those Jewish votes that are confused because, like my parents, they just thought they have to vote Democrat, even though a shoe could be running on the Democrat ticket and they would vote for the shoe. That was my parents. So, and you didn't come from a much different background either. So we both grew up in a Democrat house.
Yes.
Number one, Donald Trump actively and successfully lobbied for other countries to move their embassies to the capital of Israel, which is
The
Jerusalem.
capital of Israel, Jerusalem.
Yeah. And he worked hard on it. And that means a lot for the normalization of Israel and Jerusalem and the rest of the world, like Kosovo, like Guatemala, Honduras, Papua New Guinea, Czech Republic, Hungary, Argentina, Slovakia. These are countries that, because of Trump, just Trump, embassies get moved. God bless him for that. That's a big
Yep.
deal. And he was the
Yep.
first. All the other presidents from Clinton were supposed to do it. It's the law. And Clinton
Yeah, they were supposed to.
and Bush and Obama
Yep.
didn't do it.
They kept kicking the can down the road.
They
We'll
said,
do
I
it
know
later.
it's the law. I'm supposed to do it. I'll do it.
Yep.
And they never did it.
Yep.
Number two, he went after the big name Shiite and Sunni terrorists that had been killing Americans and Jews. And he concentrated on the supporters of Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and so on. And he didn't care what the world thought. He just took them out. And, you know, the most prominent one was blowing up General Soleimani when he arrived in Baghdad. He's an arch terrorist that was responsible for killing maybe thousands of people, right? He
Yep.
literally wiped out ISIS's founder, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and then wiped out ISIS,
Yep.
which was sworn to destroy Israel. That was number two. Here's number three. He defunded UNRWA and UNESCO. We know what UNRWA is. It's the United Nations Relief Works Agency that supports the billions, it seems, displaced people from 1948, the permanent refugees that keep multiplying at a pace the world has never seen. And they are part and parcel of Hamas, which has come out over and over and over again. And UNESCO, you know, the United Nations agency that funds hundreds of millions into Palestinians and supports jihad everywhere, he said enough. He said, clean up your act or I'm cutting the money off. He cut the money off. What did Biden and Harris do?
Put the money back.
Right away.
Plus some.
Oh, yeah.
Plus some.
$1 billion,
So they can.
$1 billion supposedly since October 7th. $1 billion.
Yeah.
Number four, he recognized the Golan Heights as part of Israel. It's probably the most important territory for Israel's security. I've been all over the Golan Heights. It looks down into the Sea of Galilee, where Israel would get rockets launched into their territory all the time. And he said, enough's enough. It's part of Israel. Israel annexed it in 1981. He applied international law and said, it is part of Israel. There's a municipality up there called Trump Heights. You think they love him? And
Oh, yeah.
as a result, all these Muslim countries have made peace with Israel because of his strong support. And I'm talking about Morocco, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Sudan have made peace with the Jewish state. Why? Because the Abraham Accords. And had he not lost 4 years ago, it would have expanded to the whole Middle East. And when he comes back in 12 days, he's already said, we're going to bring in Saudi Arabia and everybody else. And there will be peace. He is not the wartime president. He is the peace president.
Yep. You know what, Barry? a lot of people don't, we all have different views and different beliefs, and you know, and that's fine. I think the biggest thing, and this is just my personal opinion on this, okay? I don't have it set in, there's nothing in a book or set in stone or anything. This is my personal thing on this. Some of it. So President Trump, when he was in office the first time, you remember he was at the United Nations telling the United Nations that we will never become a socialist country. He could not leave the United Nations. He could not leave the building before Nancy Pelosi said, okay, we're going to impeach him. A lot of people think that he was getting impeached because of his phone call with Ukraine. They just used that. That was a deflection. It was because of this one world agenda that they're trying to push onto the world. And because of his work that he was doing, everything you just listed off, this was extremely positive. They nominated him with 7 Nobel Peace Prizes. 7 because of his work that he was doing. He was achieving what many people never thought they would see in our lifetime. And he was doing this. He was setting foot in North Korea, bringing peace. He went to Saudi Arabia, bringing peace. He went to Egypt, bringing peace. He went to Iran. He didn't go to Iran, but he went to I want to say
He went to Afghanistan.
Yeah, he went to Afghanistan. He's bringing peace. He was bringing everything. He was bringing order to the world, per se. And this is the part where I was saying that this is my belief come in. I believe that there's this thing called the Antichrist. And I believe the Antichrist is alive and well. If not just the person, but the spirit is alive and well. And it goes against everything that's good. They saw what President Trump was doing. And the Antichrist, which I believe is alive and well on the planet today, was watching and observing President Trump doing this, and they said, we've got to get rid of him. That's why I brought it with Nancy Pelosi wanting to impeach him when he was at the United Nations. They can't have someone like President Trump doing something so positive. They had to try to remove him, push him out the way. This is part of the reason why they tried to take him out twice. I don't think many people really grasp it. They tried to take him out twice because not just on the world level, when it comes to the WHO, when it comes to the World Economic Forum, but it comes to the same thing was happening here in the United States of America, the local state government, the FBI, CIA, DOJ, all of these organizations, they're terrified of President Trump coming back because he is going to put his foot down, and they're terrified of it. He's going to do so much. Same thing with Israel. He's going to stop the wars. He's going to stop the war with Ukraine and Russia. He's going to bring it to an end. That's if we make it there, Barry, because you got BRICS. You got BRICS getting ready to pull the lever, and if they pull the lever, the American dollar is going to crumble. It's going to crash, and then here we're going to have total chaos here in America. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but there's so much. I mean, there's so much happening, Barry.
Totally agree. Totally agree. We're going to wrap it up with this, and this is a little bit of education about what's really out there. I think people really, really need to know this. I'm shocked that more people don't, to be honest with you, quite frankly. And that is the amount of slavery that goes on in the Arab world.
Ooh.
There's a story out of Israel about this young Yazidi woman that was kidnapped by ISIS when she was 11 years old. And what happens is these terror groups take slaves because they're allowed to, according to their religion, such as it is. And she was sold by ISIS to a guy from Gaza and that was in 2014. So she's 21 now. She was taken as a sex slave at 11. There have been thousands of Yazidi girls kidnapped, sold into slavery, and if they don't perform as they're supposed to per their new owners, they're beaten, and if that doesn't work, they're put to death. Here's a picture of the gal. She's back in Iraq now, where she was kidnapped. She is now very happily back with her family. That's her at 21. I know something had happened to her arm. I'm not sure quite what. It's interesting that Israeli forces rescued her in Gaza. returned her to Iraq, and Iraq didn't give any credit to the fact that the Israeli army got her out. They just said she was rescued and released back to her family. It's absolutely brutal how the IDF had to go in there and rescue her. And obviously, it doesn't matter if she's Yazidi, which is a Muslim offshoot, or whatever. Everybody should be freed. According to international numbers, over 6,000 Yazidi women were captured by ISIS in Iraq in 2014. Most of the women and girls were sold into sex slavery. The boys were forced to become jihadis and were turned into child soldiers, and have been sold off into armies in Turkey and Syria. 3,500 have been rescued. There's still 2,600 missing. Many are feared dead. They believe there may be over 1,000 slaves still waiting for rescue, and they don't know how many are even, for example, in Gaza that could be freed. And you didn't know this story, did you?
No, I didn't. No,
Because
I didn't. I you know,
nobody puts the good deeds out, right?
No, no. And of course, they're not going to give any credit to Israel for doing it. Like,
Right.
nope. It's the same thing. Like with President Trump, he does something good, they will never give him the credit. They'll just say
Well,
so and so such and such happened. No credit. Israel rescued this young lady, returned her to her home in Iraq. Returned her to her home in Iraq, and the Iraqi people, the government, if anybody's saying they could at least done this. We don't really like Israel, but at least thank you for bringing one of our children home. We'll say
could have
that.
happened, but it didn't.
Maybe, hopefully they said it without the cameras. When they
It
get
hasn't
said
been
thank you.
reported. I read the Iraqi translation, and there was no mention of Israel rescuing her in Gaza, which
Like keep that out of the report.
not a shocker. Not a shocker. I want to remind everyone, go vote. You've got 12 days to do it. Absentee is fine. In person is fine. However you have to do it, please vote. It's never been more important. It's an urgent responsibility you have as Americans. And in the meantime,
12 days or is it 12 days or
Yep.
or 11 days?
12 days. Well, we're at Thursday, so it's
There's
on
31
Tuesday.
days in this month, right?
We'll do colors next week. I got a lot to show you. I also want to remind all our viewers out there, go to Unite America First, sign up for Will Johnson's free content. Go to American Truth Project, which is easy to find by punching in findberry.com. We'll sign you up for free. You'll get all of our content every week just for being there, because we love you. Thanks, Will. Great show.
All right.
We will see you next week.
Yep. Take care.